Every line on Seo-yeon's blueprint was a testament to control, a fortress built against the chaotic whims of the world. Her life was a meticulously rendered design, each detail precisely placed, every corner sharp, every surface polished to a reflective sheen. She was an architect of steel and glass, commanding structures from the ground up. But in the quiet solitude of her personal hours, she was merely an observer of her own carefully constructed piece. Her apartment, a minimalist sanctuary of muted tones and sharp angles, mirrored her soul, elegant, efficient, and guarded. The city lights outside her panoramic window were distant stars, beautiful but untouchable, much like the possibility of genuine vulnerability she had long since abandoned. A past heartbreak, a memory she rarely allowed to surface, had carved deep fissures in her once open spirit, prompting her to wall herself off, brick by emotional brick. She found solace in the predictable rhythm of her work, in the certainty of mathematics and the unwavering logic of engineering. Love, in her lexicon, had become an unstable variable, an equation too complex and too prone to failure. Her mornings began with the quiet hum of the coffee machine, a ritual as precise as her designs. Each sip was a reaffirmation of her independence, a silent vow to herself that she needed no one to complete her edifice. Her evenings concluded with the soft glow of her design monitor, the intricate lines of a new project, a comforting lullaby. She navigated social interactions with a polite, professional distance, her smiles practiced, her eyes betraying little of the vast, uncharted territory within. Friends admired her strength, colleagues respected her unwavering professionalism, but none truly pierced the veil. They saw the formidable architect, the woman who could command a team of engineers with a single, measured glance, but they missed the quiet longing that sometimes flickered in her eyes when she watched a couple walking hand in hand in the park, or the fleeting shadow that crossed her face when a romantic melody drifted from a distant cafe. This was Seo-yeon's world, controlled, composed, and undeniably alone. It wasn't a world of sadness, not exactly, but one of profound stillness. An existence where the greatest risk she allowed herself was the ambitious curve of a new building's facade, never the unpredictable contour of an open heart. She believed she had made peace with this solitude, that her life was complete in its structured serenity, but beneath the polished surfaces, beneath the layers of carefully constructed indifference, lay an unspoken desire, a dormant blueprint for a different kind of existence, waiting for an unexpected force to awaken it, to challenge its very foundation. Seo-yeon's latest architectural triumph, a cultural center designed with sweeping, innovative lines, required a visual campaign that matched its artistic ambition. She sought a photographer, someone capable of capturing not just the structure, but its soul. This led her to Jae-hoon, an artist whose portfolio pulsed with life, with raw, unfiltered emotion, a stark contrast to her own measured existence. Their first meeting was a collision of worlds, Seo-yeon dressed in crisp, tailored precision, and Jae-hoon with his artfully disheveled hair, eyes that held the depth of ancient forests, and clothes splattered with paint, emanating an almost primal energy. He spoke not of angles and materials, but of light and shadow, of the building's unspoken stories, of the way human emotion would interact with its spaces. She found his approach both irritatingly abstract and strangely compelling. He challenged her logical framework with an intuitive understanding that she hadn't encountered in years. He saw not a building, but a living entity, breathing and evolving. As he walked through her carefully planned space, he would pause, his gaze intense, capturing moments she hadn't even perceived, details that revealed the building's hidden character. Seo-yeon, who prided herself on foresight, found herself constantly surprised by his observations. He wasn't merely documenting, he was interpreting, infusing her creation with an unexpected layer of narrative. Their conversations during the initial site visits were a dance of intellect and intuition, a push and pull between her insistence on precision and his embrace of imperfection. She would cite structural integrity, he would speak of the poetry of a decaying wall. Yet despite their differing philosophies,
An undeniable current flowed between them. His presence was disruptive, a vibrant splash of color in her monochromatic world, and she, much to her own surprise, found herself not entirely resisting the intrusion. There was a dangerous allure in his spontaneity, a magnetic pull that tugged at the tightly wound strings of her guarded heart. She had always believed in order, in the predictable unfolding of events, but Jae-hoon was chaos, beautiful and untamed. A part of her, long dormant, stirred, captivated by the possibility of seeing her world and perhaps herself through his extraordinary lens. The project, initially just another commission, began to feel like something more, an unscripted journey into uncharted emotional territory with Jae-hoon as her unexpected guide. Jae-hoon didn't just photograph Seo-yeon's building, he photographed Seo-yeon. Unbeknownst to her, his lens often strayed, capturing the subtle nuances of her expressions, the way her brow furrowed in concentration, the fleeting smile she reserved for a successful design element, the quiet intensity in her eyes when she overlooked a construction site. He saw past the polished facade, recognizing the weary lines under her eyes from sleepless nights, the ghost of a softness around her mouth that betrayed a deeper sensitivity. He had an uncanny ability to distill her essence, to see the vulnerability she so carefully concealed. One rainy afternoon, during a break from shooting, he showed her a candid shot he'd taken of her. It wasn't flattering in a conventional sense. Her hair was slightly wind-blown, her glasses askew, but her gaze, fixed on a distant detail of the building, held an undeniable passion, a raw, almost fierce dedication. She stared at the image, a stranger staring back at her, a self she rarely acknowledged. It was unsettling, yet profoundly affecting. He hadn't just captured a moment, he had captured her soul. His eyes, when they met hers, held a knowing warmth that bypassed all her defenses, making her feel seen in a way that was both terrifying and exhilarating. He didn't comment on the photo, simply let it speak for itself, and in that silence, a new layer of understanding formed between them. This wasn't just a professional collaboration anymore. It was an intimate exchange. He saw the passion that fueled her architecture, the meticulous care she poured into every detail, recognizing a kindred spirit in her, dedication, despite their vastly different mediums. He began to draw her out, not with aggressive questions, but with gentle observations, with shared moments of quiet contemplation over a cup of tea in a hidden cafe near the construction site, or a sudden, unexpected comment on the transient beauty of a blooming cherry tree. Seo-yeon, who had always kept people at arm's length, found herself slowly, imperceptibly lowering her guard. She listened to his stories of travels, of forgotten streets and vibrant cultures, of the elusive beauty he sought to capture through his art. His words painted a world far removed from her structured reality, a world she hadn't realized she longed to explore. With every shared glance, every lingering moment, the invisible walls around her heart began to soften, not crumbling entirely, but becoming porous, allowing glimpses of the world outside to sight her in, and for the first time in a long time, allowing a flicker of true, unguarded emotion to escape. He wasn't just an artist, he was a mirror, reflecting back a part of herself she had forgotten existed, a part that yearned to be seen, to be understood, to be loved.
The more time Seo-yeon spent with Jae-hoon, the more her meticulously crafted world began to show cracks. His unpredictable nature, once a source of irritation, became a thrilling departure from her routine. He'd arrive at the site with a thermos of hot cocoa on a cold morning, or surprise her with a small, hand-painted stone he found on a mountain hike, telling her it reminded him of her strength. These small, unsolicited gestures chipped away at her resolve, bypassing her logical defenses and touching a place in her heart she thought was long sealed. She found herself anticipating his visits, her mind replaying their conversations, analyzing his casual remarks for deeper meanings. Her colleagues noticed a subtle shift in her demeanor, a lightness in her step, a more frequent, genuine smile that reached her eyes. Even her designs, usually so rigid and precise, started to incorporate softer curves, bolder colors, as if his artistic vision was bleeding into her own. One evening, after a particularly challenging day at work, she found herself walking aimlessly, drawn by an invisible thread to the small gallery where Jae-hoon often displayed his personal work. The space was filled with images that spoke of raw emotion, untamed landscapes, and the quiet beauty of everyday moments. As she stood before a large canvas, a photograph of a solitary boat on a vast, misty lake, Jae-hoon appeared beside her. He didn't ask what she was doing there, simply stood in comfortable silence, understanding. In that moment, surrounded by his art, she felt a profound sense of connection, a silent acknowledgement of their shared appreciation for beauty, even if expressed in different languages. She confessed haltingly about her exhaustion, the pressures of her work, the loneliness that sometimes crept in despite her outward success. It was the first time she had truly opened up to anyone in years. Jae-hoon listened, his presence a comforting anchor, offering not solutions, but empathy. He spoke of the burden of expectations, the isolation of creation, regardless of the medium. He didn't judge, he simply understood. As he walked her home, the city lights blurred around them, painting streaks of color on the rainy streets. Seo-yeon felt a strange sense of liberation. The facade she had so carefully maintained for years was slowly, exhilaratingly crumbling. With Jae-hoon, she wasn't just an architect, she was a woman with vulnerabilities and desires, a heart yearning for something more, something real. The quiet life she had constructed felt suddenly incomplete, a symphony without its most vital notes. And she realized, with a thrilling jolt, that Jae-hoon might just be the composer she never knew she needed to finish her melody. Their connection deepened, expanding beyond the professional realm into a shared canvas of life. Weekends found them exploring hidden corners of the city, not as an architect and a photographer, but as two individuals simply seeking beauty. Jae-hoon introduced Seo-yeon to abandoned industrial spaces he saw as living sculptures, to bustling markets where stories unfolded in every transaction, to quiet, forgotten gardens that offered solace amid urban chaos. She, in turn, showed him the intricate beauty of structural engineering, the delicate balance of form and function, the meticulous planning behind every grand design. They learned from each other, expanding their respective worlds, finding common ground in their passion for creation and observation. One afternoon, Jae-hoon invited Seo-yeon to his studio, a vibrant, chaotic space filled with canvases, cameras, and the smell of paint and possibility. He watched her as she meticulously examined his unfinished works, her usual guarded expression replaced by an awe he found captivating. He placed a paintbrush in her hand, guiding her hesitant strokes on a blank canvas, encouraging her to let go of control, to simply feel. It was an alien experience for her, a world away from the precise lines of her blueprints, yet she found a strange freedom in the messiness, in the uninhibited expression. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, they sat on his studio floor, sharing stories of their lives, their dreams, their unspoken fears. Seo-yeon, emboldened by the intimacy of the moment, spoke of the crushing weight of her past heartbreak, the fear of investing her heart again, only to see it shatter. Jae-hoon listened intently, his gaze unwavering, offering no platitudes, but a silent understanding that resonated deeply within her. He confessed his own anxieties, the restless spirit that kept him moving, the fear of permanence, of being tied down and losing his artistic freedom. He spoke of a childhood marked by constant relocation, teaching him that stability was an illusion, that true belonging came from within, from the connections forged in fleeting moments. As they spoke, their hands accidentally brushed, a spark of electricity passing between them, an undeniable acknowledgement of the burgeoning passion that transcended their words. It wasn't just physical attraction, it was a profound meeting of souls, two lonely wanderers finding an unexpected harbor in each other. They were two different art forms, a structured blueprint and a fluid painting, yet together they were beginning to create a masterpiece of shared experience, a testament to the fact that vulnerability, when met with true understanding, could build a bridge stronger than any wall. The more layers they peeled back, the more evident their individual scars became, whispers of a past that had shaped their present. One rainy evening, seeking refuge from a sudden downpour in a tiny, atmospheric jazz bar, Seo-yeon found herself recounting the story of her first love, a fellow architect whose ambition had ultimately eclipsed their shared dreams, leaving her with a profound sense of abandonment. The memory was still sharp, a raw wound beneath the surface of her professional calm. She described the meticulous planning they'd once envisioned for their future, a blueprint of a life together that had crumbled with devastating finality. The experience had taught her to distrust grand promises, to rely only on herself, to build walls higher and stronger around her heart. Jae-hoon listened, his fingers tracing patterns on the condensation of his glass, his expression a mixture of empathy and a quiet, almost melancholy, understanding. He then shared his own story, not of heartbreak, but of a different kind of wound. A childhood spent moving from city to city, following his parents' erratic, artistic pursuits. He spoke of never having a true home, of always being the new kid, learning to find solace in observation, in capturing fleeting moments, because nothing ever stayed. This transient existence, while fostering his incredible artistic eye, had also instilled in him a deep-seated fear of commitment, a belief that true stability was an illusion, and that attachment only led to the pain of eventual farewells. He admitted his struggle with the idea of a fixed life, a permanent address, or a relationship that demanded roots. He was a creature of the wind, always seeking the next horizon, and the thought of anchoring himself, even to someone as captivating as Seo-yeon, brought with it an unsettling wave of trepidation. Their confessions hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. They were two broken pieces, each with their own unique cracks and jagged edges, finding themselves drawn to each other, despite, or perhaps because of, their shared imperfections. The music from the jazz trio, melancholy and soulful, seemed to amplify the vulnerability of the moment. Seo-yeon felt a pang of fear, recognizing the familiar patterns of potential pain, but also an undeniable pull towards Jae-hoon's Haonziski. His past, while different from hers, resonated with her own deep-seated anxieties about love and stability. It was a moment of profound intimacy, not through physical touch, but through the courage to lay bare their deepest fears. In the soft glow of the bar, surrounded by the echoes of their pasts, they realized their connection was not just about shared passions, but about shared understanding, about two souls recognizing the familiar ache in the other, and daring to hope that, perhaps together, they could mend what was broken, or at least find comfort in their shared brokenness.